Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Etech Leadership Table. This is a podcast where we invite you to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and join us as we tackle some remarkable discussions on everything leadership. I'm Melissa Wood. I'm your host. I'm the Dean of Leadership Development at Etech Global Services. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Etech Leadership Table. This is a podcast for leaders and by leaders. So we're just going to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee and your favorite snack, and we're going to sit down and talk to Mary Poppen. I said Poppen. Don't get it confused because I'm sure she gets many of those jokes sent to her. It's just Mary Poppen. And she is an expert in the field of customer experience, really the technology side and bringing in the human side of it as well. So you never wait for someone to call you an expert, and she has not, because she is definitely... We'll link her bio below. So while you're getting your snack and cup of coffee, you're going to see that she's an executive coach. She sits on advisory boards. She's actually written a book. Go get it. Goodbye Churn, Hello Growth. I think that is such a fancy title. I love it. And I think in there, and I don't know if she'll give us a peek of some of that, but I think she talked about the 5P framework is what's included when I did a little research in that book area. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So grab up a chair if you really want to sit down and talk to an expert and see what we have to say on the field of customer experience and integrating a human side to it. Let's go. Let's get this going. So Mary Poppen, welcome to the Etech Leadership Table for the first time.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to be able to interact with whoever's listening kind of after the show.
Yeah, it's super fun. We look forward. We have no idea who pulls up at the table. You know, growing up for me, we had a big table to eat dinner at, and it was a real comfortable place. And we never knew who was going to show up at our dinner table. Sometimes it was just family. Sometimes it would be strangers. Sometimes it'd be neighbors. And so, but when they left, we were all friends, and we were better for the conversations for that. So you're just another friend to me that's pulled up the table that I get to meet, and I'm super happy. Podcasters, you may or may not get to see this, but before the episode, I don't know if they'll show it on the bloopers or what have you, but Mary and Namisha and I were talking about yoga and Pilates, and I think Mary might be onto something about a fainting goat yoga. So that may be in her next book, so stand by on that. But we're just going to ask Mary a few questions. We're going to pick your brain, Mary, and just ask some questions. You know what I say, podcasters, get your notes. If you're not taking notes, you're not learning. You're not going to remember it if you don't write some things down. So write some things down, put them on your tablet, however you need to do. But you're going to get some nuggets today. And I'm going to get some nuggets today that I know that will help us to be smarter than what we were yesterday. And that's always a goal of mine, is to be better than I was yesterday. So if we can be better in this field, this is a perfect way to do this. So you haven't pulled up here by mistake. So we're going to get rocking and rolling and ask a few questions of Mary. And again, she's got plenty of experience. We'll link everything in her bio, and you can send her all kinds of messages and ask about all the experience that she has. She sits on advisory boards, written a book. I don't want to have to keep going through it. I know that it embarrasses people when we go through how super smart they are. I do have to say she's a professor at Michigan State University. So that's really my first question. This might throw you off just a little bit, Mary, but these are students at Michigan State. You're the professor in a master's program. What have you learned from the students?
Oh my gosh, I have learned so much about the different scenarios and experiences that they go through, and how they're applying the concepts, the frameworks that we're talking about related to customer experience and employee experience, like to their roles. And they're bringing back immediate use cases. And there are things that I had never experienced or thought of that they bring back, to the classroom, and make proposals about doing things differently, in ways that I hadn't thought of. So it's a really exciting exchange to be, part of that program.
Yeah, I was super excited. I know that you've got tons of experience, actually, in the C-suite, in large companies, and being an executive coach. I know you've got all this experience, but when I saw that you were an actual professor at a university, that's really where you stay fresh, and they're bringing in like new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things. So that's, to me, when I was excited to see you come on, is that you really, you've seen the way it used to be done. You've seen the way it should be done, and you're seeing through their eyes of new ways to even think about things. So that really sets you apart from anybody else that we talk to in this field, because you're constantly getting the new generation of questions, really, and the new generation of thoughts, and it really makes us think different. So thank you for working with the college students in the world. That is not an easy job. I spent 13 years in the youth working with teenagers and college students. So I know that's not an easy job, but it's extremely rewarding. And it helps us to grow. Like, I grew the most when I was working with that age group. So thank you for doing that. If you haven't been thanked, thank you. Thank you for doing that. So
thank you. And go green.
Yeah. They'll be, hey, she probably has all her students pulled up to the table. Hopefully they're drinking something that is what they should be drinking and eating a healthy snack. When we talk about technology, the world today, I mean, you even see it in your classroom. They're just dominated by technology. Well, let me know, the question is, how can they integrate the human touch into the customer's experience? Because there's so much technology. How can we add the people side to it?
So, great question. I think from my experience, what I've seen, companies who do really well are the ones who take the time to outline the customer journey. It's funny because you hear a lot like customer journey mapping, and it kind of could become a buzzword, for example, but it really is, in my experience, the foundation needed to be able to design the kind of experience and outcomes that you want your customers to have. And if you don't have that sort of guiding vision, then it's really hard to put your business, your structure, your goals, priorities together in a way that you're going to be able to accomplish that, right? So it really is sort of like your North Star, if you will. Okay. So companies have outlined, their journey map, how they want their products and services to be experienced by the customer, how they want them to experience their brand. Companies that do this are able to outline the touch points. So what can be digital? Where is the biggest bang for your buck in terms of the personal touch, the human touch? And then you can design a scalable, an efficient journey where you're using your, talent in the best way possible to help customers achieve their results. And that really, at the end of the day, it comes back to having that, kind of vision outlined and then get the company wrapped around it.
Yeah, that's, and I understand what you mean by the buzzword. Like, we can use that buzzword and then we take away from actually looking at it as a whole. I really like the way it's almost like you're a surgeon and you're just kind of looking at the patient and you're trying to see, like, where's the technology needed? Where's the human touch needed? I really like your, it's soft, but it's a very strategic approach. It's like a soft strategic approach. That's really interesting. Thank you for that. Now, I know you showed us what to do to make it well, right? But I know organizations out there, you've seen them, you've heard about them, you've even had your students talk about where they've had pitfalls. So let's talk a little bit about some pitfalls. And I think our podcasters, they always want to know this, like, where can we make a mistake? So dehumanizing the experience. So can you kind of give me a little bit about some pitfalls that we need to avoid as your podcast listeners, and as we run our own organizations? Even some of our podcasters may want to, they're in the point where they're starting a new organization or they work with an organization. Help us out here, Mary, so we don't mess up. What do we need to watch for?
Well, what you're going to hear me talk about a lot is not only, customers, but employees as well.
Okay.
And what some of the best practices that I've seen for companies who do a really good job of sort of balancing technology, empathy, right, the human touch and the digital touch, and leveraging innovation is really about giving their employees the right processes, the right systems, and other resources to be successful. And then empower them to take care of your customers. If you have scripts or too many guardrails, it removes the human element. Can leave the employees feeling powerless ultimately, when it comes to having an issue with a product. They get an escalation from a customer, and then all they can do is say, well, let me check with product, right? Or let me see if I can give you a discount, the kinds of things. If you don't empower them to take care of the situation, then it's frustrating to the customer, frustrating to the employee, and they feel kind of helpless. If you empower them within, certain guidelines to be able to make decisions about how to resolve a customer situation in the best way for the customer and the company, you might be surprised what your employees will come up with. So it really is about giving them the right resources and training and tools, and then letting them do their job. It's really a win-win-win for the customer and the employee and the company.
Yeah, when we think about in the same way, I know you're not just talking about the customer experience with the humanization, but how can there be a human connection between leaders and team members? This is my soft spot here about leaders and team members. So what could we do as companies to make there be a better connection between leaders and team members?
Okay, so I have never found a better solution than a one-to-one between employee and manager. I think so often, right, managers and employees are busy, and so, let's just move our one-on-one. Let's kick it to next week. Right? And some employees only get a one-on-one with their manager during performance reviews, but there is something very powerful about consistently having a one-on-one where the employee and the manager can build a relationship. The manager is there to help remove barriers. They can establish expectations. They learn. Does your employee like more guidance? Do they not need that much guidance and they're actually super creative and they can be more efficient getting their job done if you just let them go, right? And it's in these one-on-ones where you have that opportunity to check in, make sure they have what they need, also maybe reset expectations. So there's something very powerful about that, and nothing else like setting goals or sending a weekly newsletter to your team or anything like that can replace the power of these one-on-ones. Also, think about like when with COVID in particular, everyone sort of had to move to this remote connection, and a lot of organizations were used to people connecting face to face. You could do quick updates with people, right? But with COVID, you had to find another way to make these connections. And it would have been really easy for the one-on-one with the manager to kind of fall off, right? What we found actually when I was at Glint is that employee engagement actually went up, and it was around manager engagement and the one-on-ones that they were having with their managers. So they actually increased. And what happened was, even in some cases, greater productivity, right? Greater feelings of value by their manager. So it just goes back to that, taking the time to spend with your employee, really get to know them, understand, from a personal perspective, what makes them tick, and then be able to collaborate and work together toward, what the company needs and the customers need.
Yeah. I love the way you said, I have found anything better. I have found anything better than a one-on-one. And that means a lot to me, and podcasters, that should mean a lot to you from someone who's been in the trenches of this for a while and has seen some of the best companies do it, has seen and studies this. Like, this has been Mary's framework of watching this human touch, and nothing but, and you're like, one-on-one. Well, yeah. Well, it seems so simple, but common sense isn't so common. That's what Shep taught me last week, is what he was saying, is that sometimes, a lot of these restaurants are going back to simple, homegrown ingredients that taste the best. And this is a simple ingredient here that I think you're right, Mary, we don't do consistently, or we take the face element out of it. And it's so very important. I mean, even the phone companies know this now. They put FaceTime on everything. You can because they know just talking is not going to do it. You have to get a face to people. So that's why we have a face on this podcast. So it'd be different than, I like to watch people on a podcast instead of just, listening. I like to see their facial expressions. So having a consistent one-on-one, even if you can't do it FaceTime, there needs to be that consistency in that one-on-one. I think that is what you call a golden nugget. You need to be writing that down and taking notes on that. Okay, now this is a buzzword. Everybody's using it, but it's the AI word, AI. So get that one down. But the rapid evolution of AI, I'm in love with it. I've been, Chat GPT, Claude AI, all the things you can do for coaching. There's just so many things you can do with AI and automation. Artificial intelligence. My husband's a type 1 diabetic. We've been using a pump for years. That's a form of AI. It saves his life. So I'm a huge AI component. But with the rapid evolution of AI and automation, how can businesses adapt their customer service model to deliver?
So I love talking about this, and I've seen it in a couple different ways. So I feel like there's two types of AI in my mind. Both can help with personalizing the customer and the employee experience. AI has been around for a really long time, and a lot of people really didn't know that it was even being used in some of the products that they have been using, or that people were using it in various services and things like that. So it has been built in on the back end of technology, for example. Now what's become really front and center for people is generative AI, and people now start to understand, I know what AI is, but that's one form, right? So the content generation piece, large language models, all of that, is one key part of leveraging AI to personalize experiences. But there's also that back-end component, which is AI looking through all of the data and the trends and the patterns in how customers, behave in order to predict, right, what's going to happen or what can happen if you don't take certain action or you do take certain action, right? And so both types are really, really powerful. And I think both can be leveraged for personalization. The key is data. So companies have to be really cognizant and smart about their data strategy and understanding what to measure, how to measure it, and then even more than that, how to relate the data or link the data. And then the biggest part is sharing those insights across the organization and using that to define action. And that's how an organization is going to be aligned, cross-functionally and holistically in the direction they need to go. But without looking at the data, without the insights, with poor data, right, it's really hard to get there. So AI is going to be helpful if you start to think about your data strategy. AI can build on top of that, and now you're unlocking tons of opportunity for scalability, more personalized experiences, a better employee experience. Right?
Yeah.
Roles can become more strategic than tactical. And so AI can really help with all of these things.
I love you're really good at that's perfect. I love how there's a process in there. So if you're picking up on that, when you're answering these questions, you're really giving us a process to follow, like what, how, relate it to the relation of that data out to people. That's sometimes a pitfall. Like, we have all this great information, but we have a hard time relating it. It reminds me of like a toddler. Like, they know what they're trying to say to you, but you're not getting what they're trying to say to you. And that's the same thing with this data. We've got to get that, be able to relate it out to those we're trying to communicate with and to share those insights. So thank you for this path. I'm listening carefully. I'm trying to be a good student here, Mary, and take good notes. And as we wrap up, because I know everybody's got things to do and places to be, and we're getting smarter than we were before we had Mary on the podcast. So I know I am, and I know that our friends are too. Last question for you is, what skills will be most critical for leaders to develop in order to champion human-centric experiences? So listen up, leaders. This is it.
That's a great question. Here's what I would say. Always be curious. So don't lose that curiosity. If you wake up every day and say, what can we do different for our customers? What could we do more of? What could we do less of? What could we start doing, right, to create better outcomes? What else could be done for our employees to create a better experience, to help them be more successful, to keep our employees and our talent longer, right? These are all things that could be done if you come at it from a curious mindset. And then I think the last thing I'll say is developing emotional intelligence. So some people have a lot of it already. Some people aren't so good at the emotional intelligence piece and sort of reading the room. It can be developed. It does, take time, but think about how you can use EQ in your day-to-day to really get people what they need, the right information, the right time, in the right way. and create a personalized experience. EQ can help you get there.
Oh, wow. That EQ, we're going to have you back to talk to us about EQ. That's just it's almost like leaving our podcasters hanging here. But I know that I don't know what, since I've met you and the way you explain things, it feels like almost like a physician. I know I said that before, but you know how you just said, basically look at what we can do more of, what we can do less of. I would like Mary looking at my blood work to even be saying, what can we do more of? What can we do less of?
I don't know about that.
I don't know if that's in your future, but that's what I feel like. So I understand why these companies and these executives want to listen to you. If her students are here, pay attention, because she's really good at examining, what we do more of and less of. And the EQ, I am seeing that this is a struggle. This is really a struggle. People understand IQ, and I do see leaders struggling in that EQ area, but it is good news that it can be developed. So maybe next time when Mary pulls up to our Etech leadership table, we can talk about some strategic ways. I won't call her physician Mary, but I will call her, the customer experience expert, that she can kind of help us unpack a little bit how we can get better, and we can strengthen the muscle, if you will, of our emotional intelligence to create empathy, so that we can show as leaders toward those that we lead, as agents toward our customers, and it helps us at home too. So Mary, thanks for pulling up to the table today. And just spending time. It's such a joy to meet you, and you're just a precious soul, and we appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us. If you haven't gotten her book, go get it, because then she will unpack some. I can see now what she's done in her book, because she even talks about a 5P framework. I'm going to leave you guys at that, because if you want another 5P framework, go get the book so that you can kind of go over it. But thanks for your time today, Mary. We had a great time learning with you and answering the questions. Until next time, podcasters, we'll see you at the Etech leadership table.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Etech leadership table. This is a podcast where we invite you to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and join us as we tackle some remarkable discussions on everything leadership. I'm Melissa Wood. I'm your host. I'm the Dean of Leadership Development at Etech Global Services.